You haven't done many podcasts, right?
This is actually my first.
Wow, that's a privilege.
Yeah, I've never done a podcast. I wouldn't call it that way. I'm not that special, man. No, I've been invited on a few before.
Yeah.
But I just prefer to work. But then Simon, you emailed, and I was like, I cannot. So.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah?
That's nice. Yeah.
Boys are all linened up as well. Loving it. How are you finding Dubai?
Loving it. Yeah. It's nice.
Good.
Yeah, it reminds me of Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong for 20 years.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's got a similar vibe.
What have you guys been doing in Dubai? What are you working on?
We're building a platform as well, and I guess we've been meeting people that we think are doing cool stuff in the education knowledge space, and just bonding with them really, and figuring out how we can help them, how they can help us. Just seeing what's going on in Dubai.
Yep.
We've got some big plans about fixing the education system and how we're going to do it. And I think we can't do it from one market either. We need to be in multiple markets. And then the weird, wacky thing is every market we open up in, we put a doorbell in it where people can press that doorbell, pitch their
I've
dream.
seen this.
So we've now put it in London. We bought a staircase there and stuck it in Twickenham. And then we put it in Hong Kong when we were there. And we put it in New York City when we were in New York in Times Square.
That's clever.
And we put it in New Zealand when we were there. And now we're going to put it in Dubai. So it's like opening up mini offices, a portal.
Well, I guess it means you don't even have to be there.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Like the whole "what is your dream" thing, you've just delegated that to a Ring camera.
Yep.
That's really clever.
Yeah, and it kind of makes it an international product. Anyone who has a dream, if you have a dream right now and you don't have any money, where can you go to get help?
My dad, but not everyone has that luxury. Yeah, not everyone has that luxury.
Yeah, and your dad, you can't necessarily help you market it to 5 million people.
No, he certainly cannot.
So we press the doorbell, you pitch it, we edited it for free for people, we upload it and try to get their business to come alive. And so
with the education system thing, what's the because you've got the vision, right, which is to fix it, but how do you fix it?
This is not your podcast.
I know.
When you have a podcast,
I was going to
when you have a podcast,
I only asked because I've thought about it a lot because I used to in school and stuff. I didn't have the best time in school. Like it wasn't the best thing, and I feel like the only way you can do it is to decentralize it, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on that. Yeah. And then I'll stop asking questions.
To be honest, the polite way of putting it is fix the education system. In reality, it's either build a parallel opportunity for people to learn. So school is okay for some people. Like the people that want to perhaps be a doctor or a lawyer, that say that system is presently teaching you memorization of the law or teaching you memorization. If you need to learn memorization as a skill,
top notch,
then school. Present system. For 10% of people, in my opinion, roughly, that's perfect. I think there's a 90% of people that need another option, like other skills, soft skills, especially with AI coming our way. Yeah. So we'll build either a parallel system, is one way of putting it, or just replace the existing system. I don't think you can actually fix the existing system. No. It's too embedded in how governments manage things, and it's a global structure, and it's just so embedded in the memorization system and the measurement of what is intelligence and what isn't. It was all based on exams, which we all know is out of date. You can't really fix it.
Yeah, that's true.
But we'll see if our system becomes so popular that it ends up being the mainstream system.
Interesting. I like the sound of it. I remember in school, you do the tests and the memorization, and you think the age-old question of when am I going to use this in the real world?
Never.
I always used to think, I do science every day of the week. I have to take 6 science exams.
Triple science lad, were you?
No, just double, but it's like 3 core, 3 additional or something like that. So I've got to do science every day of the week and take 6 science exams. And they teach it appallingly. I mean, now I'm kind of interested, but they teach it appallingly, so I hated it. I love media, and I only get to do it once a week in 1 exam. Why? And it just really got to me.
I think the other thing about it, the reality is, that I think about my son and how I'm educating him, because he's home educated, my son. He's 6 years old.
Okay.
And I've used this example many times. I haven't ever mentioned it on this podcast, but I think the way I watch him learn best is not what I want to teach him. The best way to teach him is what he wants to learn. So the school system's biggest flaw is it says, right, here are all these subjects. And they separate them. And in reality, in life, they're not separated. So my son, for example, he loves roads. He loves road maps. He loves atlases. For some reason, he will look at the road, the M25, and say, what's this circle, Daddy? You're going around this thing. And why is it going here? And basically, I'm start explaining to him how that road got built and how much it cost. He wants to know where it leads to. And then I start telling him the political reasons it almost didn't get built, what political party didn't want to build it and why, what their motivations were, and then the economics and how it got more expensive than he expected. It went above budget when they were building it. And suddenly he's learning maths, economics, he's understanding politics, he's understanding how to construct things, all from a subject matter that he enjoys.
Yeah.
Well, I think this
is what the schools get wrong, is because like knowledge is so interlaced and multidisciplinary. If you learn to learn one thing properly, into like business, for example, how do you study business? It's just psychology, economics, math, statistics, like all combined into one.
Yep.
And I think that's a perfect example, because he'd probably be like a cartographer or something. But to learn that, you've got to know maths, and you've got to know this, that, and the other. So that's a good point.
I think the other thing is you've got to reframe the question that gets asked at school. Right, the education system starts off with, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Not what problem do you want to solve?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just think that's where it starts. Because straight away your brain gets funneled into a way of thinking. It's like, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a lawyer. If you think about a problem, then you can almost be a doctor for a while, and then you can be a lawyer for a while, and then you can go and be a beach bum for a while. You can live off grid for a while. Whatever the purpose is might involve doing all of those things, right? So it's quite exciting to begin the process of trying to fix it, because I think everyone's complaining about it, and not many people are doing anything about it.
Well, it's a big one to tackle.
Yeah.
You need a big audience. That's the problem.
You need a big audience. You need a lot of very smart people involved as well, which is why you're here.
Oh, stop it! I'm not that smart. Just got lucky.
Do you think luck's a part of it? Really?
100%. 100%.
How does luck play a part?
I think luck is opportunity. Personally, I think that's how it works. I think you're given, like for example, with me, I met my business partner when I was 18, and that was just sheer luck. He just messaged me on Facebook Messenger, and we worked together for like a year before we properly partnered. And we are like we're like a married couple now. We live together. We've been working together for like 8 years, and the literally on paper perfect partnership that I could possibly have wished for. That was just luck, pure luck. Same thing with like the sales calls that I used to do for my first business. Like I remember it took me like 60 calls to get my first client, but I was lucky that I didn't give up until 61. I think people need to have the humility to recognize when luck plays a factor in business. I think a lot of the time luck can be misunderstood cause and effect, where people are like, oh, like I didn't get lucky, I worked and I put these things in motion. But I think it plays a big part. I mean, I believe in God, so I think it's like the luck comes from God, so to speak. But whether you think it's universal law of attraction or luck, it definitely exists. Anyone that thinks it doesn't is just probably a little bit too up their own arse, to be honest.
Also not grateful, maybe.
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
You've got to be very grateful, I think, for also bad luck. I mean, like, this is I cover a lot. I talk about this subject a lot. So I've actually, a large part of my new book coming out is about this subject, so I was quite interested in your take on it. But I think a lot of people don't realise that bad luck is also sometimes, over time, good luck.
I also think being born is lucky.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
being born in a first world country with privilege and a secure family and
totally. That's why when
education.
people say, "Oh, the harder you work, the luckier you get," really gets on my nerves, because it's like, well, how hard did you work in the womb to get fucking born in the country you got born in? Like I think, people, that's true.
It's like you think about all the conditions. I think about this sometimes, where I think about everything that had to line up for me to actually just be able to do what I wanted to do. For example, like. Let's say that my dad hadn't been around and I had to provide for my family and my sister and my brother, and I was a man of the house, and I would have had to get a normal job, and then I wouldn't have been able to take risks because of that. And I think that everyone has, like, I think you call this the entrepreneurial muscle, if I'm not mistaken. I think everyone has that, but not everyone has the conditions given to them by God or the universe, whatever it is, to manifest their potential. I think that's a shame.
Geez, it's so nice to hear you say that, because I'm always saying everyone can be an entrepreneur, and people are like, no, they can't. I'm like, you just need to activate that muscle.
Yeah,
sometimes that is luck. You need someone to wake you up. Sometimes that's it, or you have a scare and that wakes you up, or it comes to you through the pain you've had of your own. But it's there.
100%.
What's been that for you? What woke you up?
I was bullied quite bad when I was 12 years old, and that had a pretty bad impact on me, like a year or two during school. That's another reason why I'm not a fan of school, but that's just nature, I suppose. And as I developed into an adult, I turned to like video games, and like I never drank or did drugs. It's never my thing, but I was a lot into gaming, and I just like buried my head in the sand. And what I started to find as I became older is I didn't want a boss, because I was afraid of someone being able to exert tyrannical power over me, basically, at least unconsciously. I didn't figure this out until I did therapy a while ago, which is another thing that I think people should do. And that was really what started it, I think. And I was also just really afraid of like being average and being normal, which I don't know where that came from. I should probably do some more therapy to find that out. But.
Well, I have a similar thing.
Yeah.
I've got a similar past as well.
Okay.
And I've actually, so I saw one of your recent videos where you spoke about this.
Yeah, I got pretty heavy with it as well. Like.
Yeah, I thought that was amazing, first of all. But you spoke about how it was only until you started, your business had hit a plateau.
Yeah.
And it was only once you started integrating your shadow
that
you really broke through that.
Well, it was interesting because, Simon, I think you talk a lot about this, like with what's your dream, what's your purpose? And I think a lot of people can't recognize that until they've cleaned their house up. Like, do you know what I mean? So, like, what I had to do was we got to the point in income where we were doing about 200K a month. This was about a year or two ago. And the business was all about me. It was all about me making money, me getting rich, me building my own wealth. And I realized, like, okay, well, there's some stuff going on. I kept having these, like, big ups and downs in my behavior, like super disciplined, then super lazy and, going up and down. And so I started talking to, like, a therapist, shadow work coach person. And it turned out what happened is from where I'd been bullied, I buried that trauma, refused to deal with it because it was just too bloody painful. And part of me was still convinced that I was this powerless individual. And so every time I tried to gain power in my life through my work, this little part of me would just be like, no, you don't, this isn't us, this isn't what we identify with. And so I figured that one out, identified it, and there's a process called integration. I think you're familiar with it. And I cried on that for like 4 hours on my ex-girlfriend's shoulder. Don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. I can get a little bit emotional even talking about it now. But the next day, after processing that trauma and getting through it, I woke up and I found the vision for the company. It just came to me like that. Like, the business was no longer about me trying to satisfy me when I was 12 years old. It was no longer about me protecting myself or being in it for myself. Sorry, I get a little emotional when I talk about this. But now it was about the clients and the people and the vision and the team, and it was external. And literally, it's funny. From that moment onwards, in history, you've got like before Christ and after Christ. I've got like before processing trauma and after processing trauma. And as soon as I did that, everything just exploded, just exponentially, just blew it up because it wasn't about me anymore. It's about the company.
So what did you realize?
I realized that most of my behavior was, so there's a quote from Freud that says the adult is developed to protect the child. And when people read that, they think that what it means is if you're, like Simon, like a father, for example, your entire job is to protect your kids. That's not what he meant. What he meant was we grow up to become the people who protect who we were when we were younger. And so a lot of entrepreneurs, everyone goes through trauma. And I think that's why everyone will be a good entrepreneur, because the business is a great shield against trauma because it gives you control, it gives you power. And so what I learned is all of my actions and all of my desires and motivations and all of this was coming from the perspective of just trying to help this little kid out that was just convinced that he'd been bullied because it just was playing in a loop because I refused to process it. And once I got that done and I did the therapy, which was the best thing I've ever done in my life, out of nowhere, just bang, I realized like, I don't need to, I brought this like 12-year-old kid out of my unconscious and was like, hey, you can look around, mate. Like, we're not on the playground floor anymore. Like, we've got a pretty good life, so you can just relax. And ever since that, I haven't had that big up and down anymore. And it just,
So when you beat that and you realize that, how do you motivate yourself, not feeling that pain so much?
This is such a good question. This is the first thing people ask is like, well, if that was what was driving you, then like, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
And I think like what happened, I mean, this happened pretty quickly after that as I had the vision and everything. Then I had this sort of like quarter-life crisis where I was like, okay, what the hell do I do? Like, I've got money. I think you probably had the same thing when you sold your company.
Yes,
you probably had it on a way bigger level than me in terms of like cash in the bank and stuff. But at that point, I was like, this business is going to run regardless of whether I work or not. I've got enough cash in the bank to sustain myself with a modest life for a very long time. So what's the point? And then I started reading about conquerors and really great people. And that inspired me to just actually think, okay, you're not really that great.
Right.
You've just made some money, and trust, like, I recognize I was very fortunate to be in that position. But it was an ego thing. Like, I had this big feeling like, oh yeah, I've done so well, I'm successful. And then I realized that Alexander the Great conquered the known world by the age of 19. All I'd done was build a business, which is a feat, of course, but I think that was what pushed me forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just hearing you, I've now got a slight theory. I wonder if it's true or not, but like, so I suppressed the pain of my father dying and being homeless.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it happened a long time ago, but it wasn't until 25 years later when I sold my company and I was thinking, okay, now what? That it all kind of crept up on me, I also got therapy. I wish in England, by the way, in particular, that concept of going for therapy doesn't instantly make people think there's something wrong with you. I think people that go to therapy stop something in the end from being
right
wrong
with you.
Yeah, it means you're actually getting the help you need, because the hardest things to ask for help, right? I think but I have a theory which is like, the longer you suppress it, actually the longer the process to perhaps come to terms with it. Took you 2 years, basically. You said 4 hours, I think. I don't know if it was actually 4 hours, but like, for me, I was like, it took me about 2 years, to actually completely open the box, deal with the pain, understand it, understand how it affected me, not let it take away my motivation, because that pain does motivate you, right? That's something I really think is so important. You've got to have pain sometimes to motivate 100%. You, right? You can't afford to live. You've got to go out and pay the rent. Sometimes that pain can be good, right? Yeah. I think not losing that, but then finding a more pure form.
Well, it's like you're not operating out of anger or hate. You're operating out of love.
Exactly.
And I think that's when it becomes purer.
Yeah.
But I did, so the 4 hours thing, so I've been doing therapy for maybe about, I'd say 3 months, like weekly. And basically the woman I was doing it with, it was online. And she was like, maybe it's time that you start, because I was convinced I had nothing wrong with me. And this is what people do when they go to therapy, is they go with a problem like, I've got depression, or I've got anxiety, or I've got this. And the therapist's job is obviously to ask you these leading questions that eventually get you to talk about something that happened to you when you were younger, which is almost always the case. And I was just convinced there was nothing wrong with me. And she was like, just entertain the idea that maybe it did happen and take yourself back there. So I sat down, I listened to my favorite song, which is called Amber by Flume. It makes me feel emotional. And I just, this is the integration thing, right? I just reprocessed it and I reimagined it, and it just came like a movie, like full sound and everything, and like all the senses. And I pictured myself in the first person being bullied, third person, and then in the second person, and like all these scenarios, and like eating lunch in the toilet on my own and stuff. And I came out of that, and like I was emotional. And then my girlfriend came up, and she could see something was wrong. And when you're feeling like sad, and someone asks you if you're okay, and that's when you're like, here come the floodgates. I just burst into tears. And it felt like 4 hours. I was so thirsty afterwards.
I think that's why I think crying is actually very healthy.
Yeah, it's really healthy.
I think a good cry sometimes is you really can just release that inner pain you're holding.
Well, I read a quote from Carl Jung a few years ago that completely changed my perspective on it. And it's why I did the therapy. And he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And I realized that my unconscious, this part of me, was just pulling the strings. I was basically a puppet for my trauma.
It's making you breathe right now.
Yeah.
It's making your eyes move and do things. Yeah. You're not thinking about these things. Your subconscious is super powerful.
Yeah, it's damn big. But yeah, that was basically, and then within that 4 hours, and after that, I was like, it's like you see like a completely different world. Like I can't describe it to anyone that hasn't done it, but a lot of people therapy is very stigmatized? Would that be the right word to use?
So. Yeah.
It's very like, you're a pussy, be a man, just go and do press-ups. It's like, you can't press up away trauma, like it doesn't work, So
what then became your motivation? It was less the pain.
Yeah, so it was more to do with helping myself when I was getting started.
Sure.
So most of our clients are, young dudes who want to start the business, or they're trying to find success. And if I can, in any way, shape or form, slightly alleviate the suffering that someone has to go through in that first 1 to 2 year period, then I've done a good job. And so like that was what really became the motivation or the obsession, was like, how can I help me when I was starting? And how can I give that person knowledge and tools and systems and structures and abstractions to help them navigate that path at least quicker than I would have had to do. So I wouldn't, like when I started my business, I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. You can probably...
Totally, that's what I'm doing. Exactly the same. 15 years old, it was so hard. Didn't need to be. I was homeless for 8 weeks. It was an absolute nightmare. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about anything. And I had to survive, and it was awful. And I think there's no need for it. I mean, now you've got the internet, there's definitely no need for it. Like back then, there was no internet. People might suddenly realise I'm really old. But it was not, it was not possible to get the knowledge.
Even gardening.
Gardening, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but out of interest, why did it not switch to, like, for example, stopping bullying or coming up with a way of that? That sounds like that type of flip.
I think because I've thought about the bullying thing a fair bit. I've reflected on this a lot. And I think, and this sounds cold, but I think to stop bullying is to try and stop a force of nature. I think it's kind of like, you can discourage it and you can try to stop it, but it's tyranny. You can't to stop.
Surely you should teach people how to. If someone bullies you, these are the 5 things you can do to diffuse their.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's kind of business as well in a way, right?
Yeah.
And in companies, business, you get bullied. I mean, I've been bullied by big companies, right? I've had companies put me out of business, say that I've got a cash flow problem, so that clients don't give me credit anymore.
Raiders.
And I've had that, and that is a kind of bullying.
Yeah.
So actually, if you at a young age, if you're getting bullied 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, you give people the tools to for example, not react, perhaps, or build your own army. Those sorts of tools.
That's a good point.
Do you think a big part of it could be going back to the education system? We're not supposed to be in kids of 100 people the exact same age, all together. Right?
I mean, if you think about it, thank you for the water, by the way. I guess if you think about it, Paleolithically, we would have existed in tribes of 3, 4, 5,000 people, and you would have had, a very select few peers that would have. I don't think you would have had school per se. I think
you sound like me, by the way. This is exactly the sort of thing I'm saying.
Well, you have to look at everything from an evolutionary standpoint.
Yeah. This is all history. History will tell you all this stuff.
Because exactly. We all go. Human beings, we go weird when we stop. When we're out of line with nature. When we start eating the wrong things, or drinking the wrong things, or consuming the wrong things, or learning in the wrong way. My opinion on the mental health crisis is it's because we're not living how we're supposed to.
It's not a community.
No,
there's not a community connection.
We're supposed to live in small groups of people, and it's kind of like the dating market crisis, where no one seems to pick because there's abundant choice, and it's back in the day you would have maybe had 4 options.
Yeah, and you'd be happy with the best.
And you'd be happy with any of them at that point.
Probably, yeah. That's
coming out of your tent, you're going to be you're going to pick anyone, but. I think that with the bullying thing, I think that the education system in that regard is I could potentially solve that problem, I suppose.
I think you definitely could. You could just frame it as a kind of skill set,
I think
negotiation.
I think the way that I would try and tackle it is instead of helping the victim, you help the perpetrator.
It's interesting.
Because they're the ones that are being bullied by something.
Yeah, in their life, exactly. When you trace it back.
Yeah, it's like a transfer of energy. Yeah. So they're using the bullying and this is how I came to terms with it and forgave the people that bullied me.
Yeah.
I think until you've forgiven someone, it's extremely difficult to move on. So you're always holding on to that thing. And so I think when I look back at it now, and I don't know if this is a mature standpoint or if it's ego or what it is, but I pity the people who were nasty and who did bully me, because it's I'm sorry that you felt you had to use tyrannical power to make yourself forget something, but then maybe they were just nasty pieces of work. Maybe I'm deeping it way too much.
Sometimes I think, I don't know about your bullying case, is interesting, but sometimes do people even realise they're doing it?
I don't think so.
Sometimes it's just a bit of fun to them, and they keep going. It's like a sense of humour thing that's a bit off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, it was kind of people taking the piss out of you, almost like mates would. But these guys weren't my mates.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, I had a literal group of 50 in basically a football academy. It was, and they would all, I did this football trick. It's called a Rabona, right?
Okay.
And I messed it up. Just a small thing, tiny thing.
We all mess up a Rabona in our lives, mate.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And for the rest of the year, everyone called me Rabona, and then that evolved into Boner, and then I had 50 kids all calling me Boner for a whole year, basically. And it's those guys, they were having a laugh.
Was it actually funny first time it happened, and then
yeah, kind of. I mean, looking back on it, I kind of laugh, Yeah.
What I think I've realised is that I didn't help in terms of the way that I reacted and stuff like that.
How did you react?
Well, just like a victim. I'd show emotion and
shut
cry.
Down.
If you just sort of roll with it, and this is probably what you've did with your companies and stuff like that. When you're a mature adult, you realise I'm not going to take this. I'm not going to give you an emotional reaction or give you what you want. I'm just going to be if someone insults me nowadays, I'm just maybe you could say so much worse. Is that all you've got? At least go for the hairline or something. And I think that's...
Those tools are... I mean, I think both sides... I think it would be interesting to give both sides of the equation some tools, right? If you are bullying someone, maybe it's become a habit. Maybe it's your way of getting attention for yourself, right? Because you can pick on that person and make people laugh, so now you're getting the attention. There's other ways. It's a bit like humour. I love... One thing I missed about England when I was living overseas is England does have a good sense of humour. We will laugh about everything in a way that other countries will not. I lived in Thailand for a few years. You can't laugh about the royal family. There's no spitting image. I don't know if you ever watched it. There's no comic or joke about the royal family in Thailand. You just cannot joke about it. It's not a joking subject. In England, we will joke about it.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we get through the trauma.
Yeah.
Right? So I think sometimes with humour, there is an element of humour. It's two types, isn't it, really? There's one where you're taking the piss out of someone else to get a laugh, or you can take the piss out of yourself and get a laugh. Yeah. And I think that self-humour is actually quite good. The humour where you're attacking someone is bad, and teaching people that. Because again, I can't blame the education system for everything, because of course this also comes down to parenting. But the parents aren't taught these tools, right?
Well, so it's just it's cyclical. Yeah. You know, like you grow up, you have kids, you teach them what you know, they teach their kids what they know, and you just...
Well, worse than that. I think it's actually worse than that. Because kids don't do what you say, they do what you do.
What do you mean?
So I tell my son, don't go on the phone and play a game. And he's like, okay, and then he sees me on the phone playing a game. You know, he's not going to not do it. He wants to be like his dad, right? So I have to set an example. I have to put the phone down at dinner and put it away, and like, I'm not allowed to. In fact, I do a role play with him. I'm like, no, I'm not allowed. Please let me play the phone. And Aidan will say, you're not allowed, Daddy. I'm like, please. And I'll say, I want to watch TV. I'll say to him, I want to watch TV. He's like, Daddy, it's not the time now. You're not allowed. I give him the power, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So instead of me telling him not to watch TV, this happens in my house. He tells me not to watch TV. He's like, Daddy, we've been watching it too long.
This is something that I've implemented in my company recently, because I think if you're going to hold someone accountable to a standard or a virtue, they in turn should be able to reciprocate that, and they should absolutely. And one thing I realised, and I'm still early days entrepreneurially. Been at 7 years. I'm a baby, right? But one thing that I've learned in the last 6 months is that culture is top down, and you can't expect from people what you're not yourself. And so I was telling everyone, like, yeah, you should like work hard, and I'm just watching like Netflix or something at like 3 p.m. whilst my sales reps are slaving away on like calls.
That's why I personally could never work with someone, because often big bosses are like that. They just sit there. I'm the CEO. I don't do any work. You work. No.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, we as entrepreneurs, we aim to reduce our workload and make better decisions as much as possible. But I realized recently, like I can, like you with your kid, you can't tell someone to do something, but then not do it, because it's dishonest, and B, they're just not going to listen to you. And
I think it depends on, like you say, the hierarchy of where you are in the structure. So at the beginning of a business, my personal opinion, if you're a founder of the company and you're lazy, you can't delegate to everyone. The company probably won't succeed, because to your point, you can't, unless you hyper incentivize people, which often under a startup is quite hard.
Just profit.
And so you have to, like, even in the platform we're building now today, I have to work hard. Now, I like what I do, so it helps. But if I didn't come to Dubai and expected the team to do all the work here, then they'd be demotivated, right? And could they do it without me? They absolutely could. Should they do it without me? No. I have to be.
Well, an army needs a leader.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise it's just a group of people.
In fact, that's why I don't know if you watched the Napoleon movie recently.
Oh, I loved Napoleon.
I loved it too.
I could talk about Napoleon for
hours.
Those
historic figures are just, there's so much knowledge there of how things work, right?
Yeah.
If you want to know how to lead.
You know what's funny? In the taxi on the way here, I was reading Frederick the Great.
Right.
I can't, like, the historical, specifically like the conqueror biographies are absolutely amazing. Yeah. What did you think of the Napoleon movie, you guys?
I loved it, yeah.
I thought it was decent. Yeah.
I tell you what I liked most about it was actually...
Can't watch films.
Shame on you.
It was the ending, because Napoleon's got this historic... positive.
Talk about Napoleon for hours.
I know, it'll be a different type of podcast. Although you can talk about free humanity, there's an element of free humanity there. But the amount of people that died under his leadership,
it's terrible.
I think that's what shocked me the most at the end. Just realising, of all the wars and all the things that have happened, that ego that made him such a powerful leader also like really killed a lot of people.
They're barbarians to some degree.
So that at the beginning, I feel like there was an element of like genuine genius, and a bit like a lot of leaders in war, something just goes wrong. You know, it's no longer about the purpose, and it becomes about them. Yep. And I think that's back to your point about top down in leadership. You know, if it becomes about what they can get out of it, which is what I think happened to Napoleon at the end. I want my war record to be I've won every war. I'm so brilliant. He drank his own Kool-Aid. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Well, that was why I respect Caesar, I think, from ancient Rome, because...
You'll be pleased to hear, I'm sure. That's probably looking down
I don't think
someone finally gets it.
I don't think Caesar cares too much about what I think. But what I respect about him is when he won the Civil War, everyone was like, let's make you emperor, let's make you emperor. Let's like, eventually, obviously they did, but for so long he just was like, no, because he knew that as soon as that happens, it goes to your head. Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
I think giving away power is actually really, really interesting. Like, I like to give away power, and I did a podcast myself for the longest time. I don't like it, I like a team podcast. I like to share the love of building something like this, right? And I think that, a lot of podcasts are about the person who, I don't want to name any names because there's a lot of brilliant podcasters out there, but they sit there and they're like,
welcome back to the Mr. Man show.
I am the best podcaster in the world, now talk to me. And I just think there's something really interesting in it, in not being about, like you say, the Caesar model, where it's actually like trying to resist power. Like my social media platforms, I don't see them as my social media platforms.
Yeah.
We've built them up together. Yeah. So today we went live on TikTok, and the team are talking on TikTok and getting to know the community listening. Hello, community listening. But to me, that's I love that, because I can also feel the power, right? If you have a social media following, it's like, oh, I've got a following and it's mine, and I don't want that whole owning me.
Well, that egocentricity just it will get you. It depends on the goal of the individual. If your goal is narcissism, which there's nothing wrong with that. Well, there can be. There definitely is something wrong with that. But
that's going to go by. Yeah. Nothing wrong with narcissism.
Well, there's nothing wrong with healthy narcissism.
No, I think we're all a little bit narcissistic.
Everything we do.
You're learning to fight it. I don't care who you are, right? I mean, you're learning to control it like any power.
If you're thinking longer term than now, thinking long term, thinking about the mission, thinking about the billion that you'll one day get to.
Yeah.
What's next then? Is it after Easy Grow? Is it Easy Grow?
Yeah. So the current business, Imperium, where the mission is to make client acquisition easy. So that's the vision statement. That's the dream. Is that every business owner, or at least in our market, because that's what I know, every business owner who deserves to have clients gets clients. Because the biggest injustice that I see, that I've been able to solve for myself, that's within my realm of competence to solve, is that there's people out there who have talent and who have skills that can alleviate pain and solve problems from people in the market, but they just don't know how to get those clients. And that's the big thing that I don't like. The problem that I see is that client acquisition problem of there's buyers that need help and there's sellers that can give the help, but the sellers don't know how to bridge that relationship, which is what we're very good at. So that's the initial vision, but that's not a big, inside of the market, that's not a big billion thing. So the vision above this that we're working on now is to essentially, the vision statement is to conquer every niche. When I say word conquer, I don't mean in a tyrannical, assert power and destroy everyone in the market, but to go into the other info markets and to essentially do what we've already done 10, 20, 30 times. So I don't know if you'd call it private equity or venture capital, but we want to build a portfolio of companies that are product first, client first, and have good standing and good philosophy that can come in and help all these businesses. I believe in education. I think that's the online education at high ticket, helping business owners solve the client acquisition problem is where my heart and passion lies, because I know what it's like to be able to help someone but not to be able to tell them you can help them and to not be able to convince them. So that's the problem I want to solve. If I die and in some way, shape or form I've made a significant, what would you call it? If I've made some significant progress in helping people do that and that problem is eradicated or significantly overcome, then I'd say that gives me a lot of meaning in life.
Sure. So just paint the picture. How does that look in other niches?
So, for example, let's say that you are a real estate agent and you have got sick houses to sell. And you're or you have a great ability to sell houses, or, you want to help people and there's people who are selling their homes who you don't know how to market to and get to, list their house to you, because you can get them the best price and you've done all your training and you really tried hard. And so an info business would essentially come in and say, okay, Mr. Estate Agent, I will help you, I will give you the skills and the knowledge to build systems that allow you to routinely, predictably acquire these homeowners or these sellers, and I'll teach you to do that. And I'll give you the systems that allow you to do that. And so what my business partner and I are looking at right now is partnering with these info business founders who have the talent and have the skill, but just don't quite have the decision know-how or the hiring know-how to get to that big level. And so I just want a portfolio of education companies that solve problems.
Sure. So you'd partner with people that know real estate acquiring?
Yeah, so I can give you an example of a deal that we're looking at now. So there's a guy in the real estate space, and he has built a very successful marketing agency helping real estate agents get buyer and seller leads. He's not making huge sums of money. Well, objectively, he's doing very well. He's making 30, 50 grand a month. And he's at the point in his marketing agency, and you probably had this with your agency, where it's difficult to scale because the business is so centralized to him. And so the way that we want to help him solve that problem is to build a program, build a course so that he can help more people. Because the problem with the marketing agency is you can help a lot of people, but you have to have lots of people helping those people, and it becomes quite inefficient and slow. But if you have a course, it's information. There's no humans, so you can just scale that real fast and help more people and solve more problems. And so we're talking to him at the moment, and we might come in, take a percentage of the equity, say, okay, take your knowledge and build the best program in the world in this thing, and my business partner and I will help you hire the right people and make the right decisions to get you to $1 million a month or $2 million a month. And if we can do that and conquer every niche, and come in and basically, I don't want to say monopolize every niche, because that once again sounds terrible, but there's a lot of inefficiencies in these markets where a lot of people are selling bad courses for high prices and there's no one to check them. There's no one coming in and being like, product's the main thing, not marketing, so I'm going to come and like wipe you out and just, this is kind of what we did with our market, is we just put the product first. And yeah, that's basically the plan, and that fits into the vision. And yeah, if you don't process trauma, you can't think like that, which is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So beyond real estate, I'm still interested. Picture a few others. Like, so you used to work with gyms, right? Would you say do the same with
absolutely
the gym?
Yeah. So
cool.
I've got some markets in mind, because I know gym owners because I used to work with them, and gym owners are some of the most down to earth, honest, hardworking people. They take on massive risk, and often they start a gym out of love. They're like, I want to take responsibility for the health of my community, and I want to help them. And it breaks my heart because they do that, and they have this vision and this dream to help people and to fix lives and change lives. But the one skill that they lack, they're very good at getting people fit and hiring the right people to do that. But the one thing they lack is the marketing, the acquisition, like how to get people in the door so they can help them. And so like another example could be, okay, you're a founder that knows how to do that. Partner with me, and I will give you the operational know-how to scale it so you can help thousands of gyms. And I want to build one of those in e-commerce, in gyms, in real estate, solar, med spas, because it's not just isolated to a niche, because business owners are business owners. We are universal creatures. We have the same problems and the same struggles and the same dreams and ideals, usually just wanted to help people. And so I don't want to bucket people into helping them for who they are, but what they are, which is a human, basically, which feels pretty good. But yeah, that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of luck. But I feel like if you know if you really want it, give it like 25 years, bit of luck, fingers crossed, with the right intention.
It's interesting because I've been in marketing a very long time, and so it's very when you talk about those systems and people getting customers and that sort of thing. Okay, let's take the property analogy. Okay, so if I was doing a property company today, starting from scratch, the Tesla model, built from scratch, right?
Yeah.
I'd actually say, okay, if I'm a client going to a estate agent today to buy a property, I'm actually not the customer. The person selling the property is the customer. So there's already a problem in the market, because when I walk in there, I'm the customer and they're also working on behalf of the developer or whoever's selling.
Real estate's a scam anyway, but
Exactly, real estate's a scam. Yeah. It is a scam. Jesus Christ. It's like it's listening to someone in a mirror.
Well, I think
I know 10 points in this world.
No, I'm a lot more than 10
I don't
points.
mean it.
I don't know you script beforehand. That's weird.
Don't worry, we'll come back to the scam of property.
Okay.
Let me just quickly
I was
get this
going to
out.
get into it, and I looked at it and I was like, there's something wrong. But yeah,
there's nothing wrong. Okay. But before that, if I was running a property company today, the way it works in reality is if someone's looking for a property, right? Someone's looking to buy a property. I don't give a shit who's selling it. I couldn't care less. Like I bought a home recently. I'm not a fan of property, but I bought a family home. I liked the property and then found who's listing it. Okay, fine, I'll contact them. I don't care who it is. And so it's all about supply. Okay, it's all about the listing, really, in reality. Listing the right property in the right way, in the right presentable way, at the right price. Yep. Yes, all those points are important. It's about listing. What if you built a property agency that sold your property, just like these other companies promised to, by just putting it on Rightmove? All do it exactly the same way, right? If you said, every time we sell a property, everybody gets paid properly, and that's correct, everyone gets their commission and all, but also all the profit we make from selling your property, and some of the property commissions are huge.
Goes to homeless people?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there you go. So suddenly, if I'm selling a property, I'm like, I'll give you guys go first because it doesn't cost me any extra, but I'll be hopefully solving a problem or helping solve a problem. And equally on the buy side, I'll be like, oh, that's kind of nice to hear that you're listing with those guys, because I know that the commission goes to help the homeless. Yeah. There you go. You don't know the whole market. Everyone would want to list as long as you sold the property. Everyone would want to list with you, which once you've got the listing, everyone will buy from you. Now, of course, there is always property demand and supply. There's always a drop in, sometimes a demand for property due to various reasons.
Yeah.
But I just think that's that simple. You know, all the other sales mechanisms don't really matter.
Well, it's a very universal system, but the issue I take with it is it's when you buy property to hold property and you rent it out, you're kind of contributing to the problem. And I think that there's opportunity, and you can make a lot of money in real estate.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous.
But it's like you're not really like housing is value, but it's like you're
not GDP value.
Well, this is the problem. It's kind of like, you know, you can buy a house and then you can rent it out to someone, and that's fine, but it doesn't feel like a real business.
It's not a real business.
Because you're not on a door. It's not because a real business, you're not solving a problem. And you could say, but I'm providing housing to people. That's
what they say. That's what comes
exactly, but it's like, but really,
the house would be there anyway.
What you're doing is you're taking houses off the market that people should buy.
I get very upset about this. What you're talking about. I've talked about it a lot.
So it's nice.
It's nice. No, in a good way. I banned buy to rent and buy to let today if I could, because a monopoly was invented by a woman, right, to show the problem with property market. If you have a game where all the property can be purchased, there's only one winner in the end.
Yeah.
Right? And she designed it to show that problem.
Yeah.
We didn't fucking listen. Right? And that's why, you know, frankly, you know, like nurses in England can't even fucking afford, they can't be paid more at the NHS because there's no more money. There's no money tree unless it's for COVID. There's no money tree. At the same time, there's no relief on like the housing situation. A basic human need.
Yeah, it's just
right, it's not,
actual shelter.
Yeah, it's not like like in tribal days, there was no homelessness. If you need to sleep somewhere, come on my tent.
Come sleep in my, yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, like, so now there's no home.
Yeah. Well,
it's ridiculous.
It contributes to the problem. I think that you maybe can do it in the right way, but it's still like there's something. When we were looking at investing in property, and my parents, bless them, they helped us with like finding the places, and we found all these places, and we went to do it, and we bought one, which I'm now selling, and I just thought about it, and I was like, yes, it's a consolidation of power, and it's going to go up, and you're going to make more money, and you're going to rent it out and stuff like that. I thought, if I put that money into my business, I'll make more money.
Totally.
Because if you know how to turn $1 in, so for example, our return on ad spend on our ads for the business is 3.7. So if I spend $1, I make 3.7 back. So why would I sit around and wait for a 5% return on a house in, you know...
Plus it's a liability you're sitting on, by the way, not an asset.
Yeah, exactly.
You're paying out for it.
I just didn't like that. I didn't like how it sticks to you.
It's a middle-class trap.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people don't realise it. Don't want to hear it either. People that own property don't want to hear it because they've already bought into the system. Please don't say that. The property market could collapse.
Too far gone.
And the governments are now also heavily reliant on it, and banks literally have like made human slaves by the mortgage.
Look at what happened in America. It's like with the mortgage thing. Like you come in and you get a mortgage, and I get the game. You've got to buy a house, right? But it's very broken in the sense that you live in it, and then it's like, okay, I've got this mortgage to pay. I'm paying maybe 20-30% on top of what I should, the actual value of the house. The bank doesn't really need more money. I mean, you know, consolidation of power, it's the game, 80-20, whatever. But then the thing that really gets me going about it is the inheritance tax. So like, you know, you've got this mortgage, and okay, you pay it off, you get to like 70 or whatever. And
you are watching my content. This can't be real. This is exactly what I say all the fucking time. No, it's insane.
But with the inheritance tax?
Yeah, of course. Then people lose half of it in inheritance.
How much is the inheritance
45%.
45%.
This is fucking insane. I was talking about this morning. I've talked about this for the last 3 years non-stop. No one seems
I watched your the video you did, the 2-hour 26 one. That was really damn good.
Oh,
congratulations on that, by the way, guys. You absolutely smashed that.
Yeah, teamwork.
And the Hong Kong one as well, the lady.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, the real estate thing, just like...
So what's the answer to fix it? Because like, we're going to free humanity. We've got to at least give them accommodation.
I'm not smart enough to do that.
No, I don't know. You're way ahead of me. I was not thinking like you were your age. Like
I've been very fortunate to have very good mentors and very good people that I've learned from. I think that I had this huge ego trip when I was 19, 20, 21, like 100 grand a month, 19, 20, whatever. You know, I thought that I was like the best, and like I knew everything, and I didn't like have to learn from anyone or read any more books, because like, look at me, I'm 20 years old and I'm making like 7 figures a year. And that was what contributed to that sort of quarter life emptiness, where I was like, oh, actually, you're not that good at all. But I'm lucky in that regard to have been mentored properly, but I can't.
How did you get mentors? Are people listening like, oh, how do I get mentored properly?
Sure. Do you know what? The first guy that mentored me properly, well, my father has been, my mother as well. They've both been wonderful parents. I'm so blessed to have them. My dad's a very...
They just hit the like button on the YouTube.
Huh?
They just hit the like button.
They probably subscribed as well.
Did they subscribe as well?
Probably.
Thank you, Mum and Dad.
No, I owe everything to them. I think that a lot of people, when you ask them, I'm very lucky, because a lot of people, when you ask about like, how did you make it, the first thing they say is, oh, I built this funnel. But like, really, it was having very supportive parents, because not everyone wants to. When they start a business, their parents don't want them to. They're like, oh, you shouldn't do this. But my mum and dad, they got it. They're very good. So my dad, I learned a lot from him growing up about finances. And he'll be happy for me to say, he's a very frugal man. So I learned a lot about saving money and stuff. But really, my first mentor outside of home came from a guy called Russell. So I did a 6-month stint at uni. And I was in Plymouth Uni doing a course called Entrepreneurship and Enterprise, which is now discontinued because it wasn't that good. And which is why I dropped out. And I made a habit of going to networking events. So I went to Primark, I bought a shirt for £6 because it was all I could afford, and rocked up with my trainers. And I went to this networking event in it's a place in Plymouth called the Barbican, and I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I literally was just walking around like talking to people, and they were like, "Who's this annoying, spotty teenager who's just like coming up to me like asking me for help?" And then there's this guy in the corner, and I remember it very well. His name is Russell. Quite a big dude, like gold watch on, kind of bold, like just looking like a mafia boss, basically. No one's talking to him. He's just sort of sat in the corner, just like by the buffet. And I go over to him and I say, "Oh, nice to meet you, man. Nice to meet you. My name's Charlie. Like, please don't kill me, whatever." He went, "Oh, I'm Russell. Like, nice to meet you." I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "Consulting." And I was like, "Okay, like, you know, what kind of consulting?" He went, "Oh, we just do consulting." I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to push." I said to him, I said, "Look, I have nothing of value to offer you. I know that you're busy, but if I can get 50 minutes of your time to go to Costa on me, I'll pay for it, and just ask you questions, I'd be deeply appreciative." And he sort of laughed and he went, "All right, fine, we'll do it." So I got his number and we texted back and forth for like a day or two and arranged a date at a time. And then there's a Costa on the main, if anyone's been to Plymouth, there's a big Costa as you come in. So I walked that from my accommodation. It's like 60 minutes. And I turned up, and he was a little late, whatever, and he walked in. And I was sat there, like, at this table, bolt upright like this. I've got 2 notepads on the table. I've got a pen, and I've got, on my phone, I've got a timer for 15 minutes, because he said he's going to give me 15 minutes. So I'm sat there like this, and I'm like, okay, this is important, because it's the only person that's really giving me the time of day. And Russell comes in, and I'm like, oh, what can I get you? Like, I treat him like I'm like working in the place, for God's sake. And he's like, "Oh, I'll have a latte, whatever." And, you know, I go up and I pay for it. And he sits down and he looks at me and he says, "Okay, so what do you want to know?" And I'm like, just everything. Like, where do I start? Because at this point, I was trying to start like my first social media marketing agency. And he had turned out that he helped people get out of debt. That was his insolvency practice, was what he did. And I had the 15-minute timer on, and he started talking. I was scribbling away. I bring a notepad everywhere with me, so if I have an idea, I write it down. And we talked for about maybe 4 hours. And the time went off, and I said, "Oh, can I ask one more question?" He was like, "Sure, whatever." You know, obviously like entertained by this kid who's been wearing the same Primark shirt for like 3 days in a row now. And yeah, and we talked, and I met Russell near enough every single week in that Costa for about 4 months. And then I met his wife. She's a lovely. I met his daughters as well, and they sort of let me come to their house in a place in Devon. I won't say where it is because it's pretty localized, right? And
he never charged you?
He never charged me.
How valuable is free
honestly,
help?
like
how valuable is free
honestly
help?
a absolute like.
But you know, people say that value, there's no value in free help.
Oh, there's
if you don't pay, you don't pay attention.
No, that's not true.
It's not true. Is
Mate,
it?
I was sat there like
you know
like,
that is one of the most common lines people selling courses, straight up courses.
No, it's a lie. I think
it's a lie.
I think it's a coping mechanism that people use to
justify
their actions.
When they've got so much money they don't need to, but they still do.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm maybe I'm evil in that regard, where I still charge for the knowledge.
But you're charging companies that can afford it.
Exactly.
I'm talking about people that can't afford it actually deserve a bit of a break like that at scale. Yeah. I think it's important to help people for free. Yeah. And it has value. So don't say it doesn't.
Well, this is the YouTube
That is
thing.
the most amazing piece of value.
Honestly,
in your life.
I can.
That person, are they still alive? I mean,
yeah, no, he's still going. I text him from time to time.
I want to ring him up right now and say thank you for you. You know, like that is a great human being as well.
Yeah.
Like to make that commitment to do that. That human being has made a huge difference.
Should we call him and see if he answers?
Should I try
Let's see if he's. Let's see. Where is my phone? Actually,
Jesus, it's just what an amazing human being.
He's honestly.
Does he know how grateful you are?
He does. Well, no, not as much as I should.
Yeah, well, let's
let's give him a call.
Well, you can voice tip him if you want. If it's less, he might.
You
know his personality. He might be like, "What the fuck is happening?"
He might be a bit like, "What the hell?" But I might just call him up and just say thank you. And I'll tell you about another mentor I had in a second as well.
How nice is it as well to say thank you to someone who's done that?
Good. It feels good. He might not answer.
He's going like, "What the hell are you calling me for?"
Charlie.
Russell, how's it going, mate?
Not too bad. Do you know what? You're on the list to catch up with. Sorry, I do apologise.
No, don't be stupid, Russell. I don't want to take too much of your time as per usual. I'm currently on a podcast live, and we're talking about mentorship. And I was telling them about how you used to sit in Costa with me for hours and tell me about business knowledge. You remember that, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I just wanted to call you to say thank you because it occurred to me that I haven't done that recently, and I want to say thank you to you and Sue for taking me in and. God, you're going to make me all emotional. I just wanted to say thank you, man, because I remember when we met at that networking event and you gave me that that boost. And yeah, I'm so grateful, and I really, really appreciate it. You don't have to say anything. You're live on TV, so to speak. But yeah,
I want to know why you did it.
Yeah, well, the person who is interviewing me, Russell, wants to know why you helped. Would you be able to answer that quickly?
Why? It's called giving back. And I just felt that I could give back to someone at the time. And when I'd spoken to many people, and even though you were struggling, I don't know, I just kind of clicked with you because I felt that you had something more to give than a lot of people out there. And I just felt it was, you were receptive to learning. Did you make mistakes? Yes, you did.
Yeah, you called
at the time because of going into a partnership. I said, look, that's going to be really hard, but you went and tried things, even by discussing it and giving us that feedback, and do you know what? There's no issues in trying things because you learn so much quicker by trying things yourself. And I always call it falling down, picking yourself up, dusting yourself down, and getting back on your own feet.
Russell, I bloody love you. I won't take any more of your time. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Wow. You're going to make me cry.
Wow. It's so big.
But
it's so big. At the time...
Oh, God, that's probably taking me back.
He's got that teddy bear voice.
How amazing of you.
Russell is just like... him, and there's another guy called Alan as well, who I did my apprenticeship under. I won't call Alan for a few reasons. Not anything bad, but I just know
it's too emotional. I'm feeling emotional. I don't think I can take another phone call,
but I also know that he might not appreciate the live nature of it. Russell would be fine.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's cut me straight in the heart.
But people listening, by the way, I would say, like you take 4 minutes out. Like you said, 15 minutes, and if it clicks, it lasts longer. But take 4 minutes out just to help someone out in any way you can. Everyone can afford 4 minutes, even if you're broke. You can afford to give someone 4 minutes of your time, right? Yeah. Retweet them, share them on your stories, help their small business by liking their posts. There's so many things people can do every single day to help people. It doesn't have to be as deep and meaningful as that particular example,
dude, that's going to make me cry. That's flying back some tears.
But it's fucking awesome. It's all round awesome. Being famous, all this bullshit that people think they want. I want to be like him.
Better than that,
I want that life.
Nothing
you help someone, you made a difference in someone's life. You made the effort with them every day.
Well, I would remember I would just text him like, I've had this massive client problem. What do I do? And he'd reply. And so Russell was the first guy that took me under his wing, so to speak. And he, wonderful, wonderful man. Like this is the luck thing. Because I could have not gone to Plymouth Uni, and I could have not gone to that thing, and I could have not gone to the event, and I could have not met him, and that could have, the second order consequences of that might have not manifested over a trajectory. But I've had a few mentors, and then the second guy who mentored me was a guy called Alan, and this was after uni. So if I drop out of uni, and then I start an apprenticeship to learn to sell, because sales is all there really is in business, right? Everything else you can pick up if you can sell. Because if you don't sell, you can't pick anything up.
Sales is totally teachable.
Yeah, everyone can sell.
Introvert, extrovert, you can all learn sales. My accountant last company is the best salesperson I ever had. Everyone can sell.
Everyone can sell if they love what they do enough and they want to help people. And Alan took me in, and I was paid £3.50 an hour to make cold calls a day. And I remember every morning, sometimes Alan would be in the office, sometimes he wouldn't. And if he was, I would just I think that the main thing I've learned about finding mentors and getting mentors is just showing a genuine, sincere curiosity. For example, we've got dinner later on. I brought a notepad and a pen. You better believe it, because I want to ask you a lot of questions about how you've done what you've done.
I've got one too, so there we go. Between us,
I've got more to learn.
We'll take a lot of notes from Jack and Callum.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. But with Alan, sometimes he'd come in, sometimes he wouldn't, and we would sit there and we would just have business discussions. And what was the most valuable thing to learn from Alan was how he made decisions and how he saw the world. And I'd say, we've got this client, we've got this problem, and he'd be like, okay, well, how would you handle it? And then let's pick apart your reasoning. And he taught me to think. And after that, Sam Evans, course guy, who, mate, I owe everything to Sam Evans and Russell and Alan and my parents as well. But you know that quote, I think it's Newton, that says, if I see further, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. I think it's easy.
That's why I think knowledge needs to be given more freely, because we can't stand on the shoulder of giants if it's behind a gateway.
I think my philosophy here is niche specific knowledge, specific knowledge, like how to solve a specific problem, can be kept behind a gateway to sell, because you have the incentive to do that. But I think free knowledge is also appropriate. I think you can sort of have both, if that makes sense.
I think it's an interesting subject in itself, what you're talking about there. We have probably a whole podcast around
we can talk about that.
Because I think that I think that it depends on the person's stage in life as well. Like sometimes when people need to make an initial income, I had a service business when I first made money. I had an agency. So for my marketing genius, you'd have to pay. Because I couldn't pay my bills unless you did, right? That's not knowledge. That's innovation in experience and ideas, right? But I don't think I could give it away for free. Today I can give it away for free.
Yeah.
Because I can afford to give it away for free.
I get that.
I think knowledge, however, we have as humanity, we've got to be a little bit careful, because we hold back knowledge, right? People that can help people. We want everyone to be rich. It's a Naval thing, right? We want everybody to be rich.
Yeah, well, rising tide raises all ships, right?
Exactly. And if we know if we make everybody rich, the world's a better place. And I've seen it in China.
Yeah.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. The time I lived in Asia, China went from a huge amount
They brought so many people out of poverty.
410 million people in 20 years I lived there. 410 million.
That's got to be better for everyone.
Out of poverty, and it made a huge difference to that country, right? Huge difference. Mortality rates rising, happier lives, better for America. China getting rich is better for America.
Well, I think if you look at most of the empires throughout history, the ones that do the best are the ones that try and decentralize wealth.
Yeah, and help their
and then
people
they fall
lift
apart.
Up. Rome, that's what Rome did.
Yeah, and then they fall apart.
Built infrastructure to help the people.
Yeah,
right?
And then when it centralizes, the empire just
totally.
falls apart.
Yeah, and I think the thing is though, people don't understand this concept. So I really want to keep mentioning it, because I think people don't understand. And I think a big part of making sure that everybody's rich is giving everybody the knowledge to get rich. And if you hold that knowledge back, now there's different barriers of it. Like for me anyway, I don't know, Richard Branson charging for his knowledge is a joke. If he's a successful entrepreneur, which he is, he can make money starting a business. Does he really need to charge some poor guy sitting in Kent in England who's desperately trying to figure out how to make a living?
997.
There you go, mate. Give me thanks for your. I made 12 quid out of you.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Just put it on YouTube and give it away. It's no big deal, is it? And then we can stand on the shoulders of giants. If they don't give it away, they're not giants. They're just fucking weasels. I just don't get it.
I don't think many billionaires sell knowledge. I mean,
I just give it.
It's an interesting ethical debate for myself, because I sell information, I sell knowledge.
Yeah, you're saying to corporations.
But this is the thing. Well, I sell to corporations, but sometimes we sell to people who are starting businesses. And
well, there you take equity. You said earlier.
Well, no, that's the next thing.
That's the next.
So with
this evolution.
Thing, yeah, this is evolution, but the same is natural. Yeah, it is. But I think that I do stand by I think you have a right to gatekeep specific knowledge, but generalized knowledge should be free for everyone. In the way that, for example, if you want to learn to be a doctor, there is an element where maybe you should have to pay something to learn how to do that, because if everyone can do it, then there's no value in the thing, and that diminishes the value of the outcome, if that makes sense.
It's a bit like going to university.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
has no value.
Well, the university has no value, of course.
But
not.
it costs a lot.
Yeah, well, it's like 50 grand, you know. So I think the uni's an interesting one, because it's like, when I went to uni, because I made this mistake, you know, of going to uni. Did you go? Did you go to there?
Yeah.
Where did you?
Went and didn't.
Jack did it the
go.
best way. Jack did it the best way, Mike.
I went to Westminster Uni and did first year, and then started my business, and then started working with these guys in the last year. So second and third year, the one that count, never went, but just did the work in like a minute, and then translated a German dissertation, so it couldn't be caught out, and passed it, so I could keep my student loan to support my business that I was starting around that time.
Student loans to start businesses is pretty interesting. I think
That's the only reason.
Imagine if we did loans for people who want to start businesses.
On it.
Instead of being like, oh, here's 50 grand to go and study something that you're probably not going to pursue or use.
Yeah.
What if we give you 50 grand and we give you somewhat favourable APR over a ridiculous time horizon, so that you maybe just try?
By the way, financially and economically, you wouldn't even need to make it a loan. If those people then start businesses and create jobs, it's like the best country investment structure you could ever do.
Well, I think there's a really interesting cultural phenomenon that's developing, which is the decentralization of solution, where it's becoming less and less. Like, okay, for example, have you ever been on hold to HMRC?
Yes.
And you know you're sat there listening to that hold music for like 2 hours. It's like, this could probably be done by AI. Or if some entrepreneur had an incentive to come in and solve this problem, it would be done within like 3 weeks.
That's why the NHS is slightly inefficient. There's no incentive.
Oh, slightly. It's
and I'm being polite.
Well, it's the thing is with the NHS is a lot of people, they, you know, not to get political about it, but a lot of people like say, oh, the NHS is like broken, but like those people, they work so hard.
No,
like all the people that work there, it's not
the
their fault.
grassroots is unbelievable. Passionate, purposeful people. I interview people in the street and ask them what their dream is. If it's ever a nurse, they always love their job.
Yeah, nurses are angels. They're absolutely
unbelievable. But it's not. It's the management and it's the psychology of how that's run. Right, you know, toothpaste is 3 times more expensive bought by the NHS than if you just go to Boots and buy it. Right, because of the procurement system and the bullshit infrastructure system. It's not entrepreneurial, and it should be. Nothing wrong with like saving money to make it more efficient so you can spend it on medical care. You know.
Well, it's the lack of incentive that's the issue. And like how you tackle that, I don't know, because do you want to disrupt democracy and decentralize the government and create a republic? And
yes, you do.
You know, well, I'm not smart enough to know. You know, whether that's a good idea. I need to do some more reading, I think. But the current way we're doing it is definitely broken. Like, there's no 2 ways about it. But like where you start, I think would probably be with the incentives. Like imagine if this is the thing, is I'm not educated enough on geopolitics to know the right solution. But imagine if you did reallocate the tax bill. And instead of spending it on something that you might not need to spend it on as much, go and give it to people who are like, well, I might go to business school because I want to start my own business. Give them a pool of money and tell them, okay, you go and solve this problem and you're contractually obligated to work on it for 4 years or whatever. Like, problems would just be solved and then things would be better.
I want everyone to have an entrepreneurial mindset. I think I'm not investing personally in businesses that save the planet. Because I think the planet will be fine when we're gone.
Yeah, well, that's just
I'm investing in things that help humans solve problems and build things that change the world. Like, that's what I think is the only way to go.
I think the most meaningful thing that one person can do is eliminate suffering.
Yeah. And actually, a lot of the time, that's easier than it sounds. If one person tries today to do that for someone else, that's it. It's the beginning of a ripple effect.
I had this thought a while ago because I was thinking about like the make money online thing because I've got the YouTube channel and like that's kind of what we teach. And I made this video called I figured out how to get rich quick, lol, right? And it's my best video. It's a picture of me in front of my house on the palm being like, yeah, like, give me, I got this money. And in that video, the core idea of the video, and this is my best video, so I know that it must have resonated, is that money is made when value is created. And value is created when pain is alleviated, and pain is alleviated when problems are solved. And so I think like what people lack, and the biggest... to someone who wants to start a business, I think the biggest problem that they face in terms of their belief system is I don't know what the idea is. This is what you said in your long video. Like, you don't need to start with an idea. You start with a problem. You know, like, what do I want to solve? And I think if you can understand that the only way to make money is to solve problems, then it completely switches it, because you're not just randomly in the shower and you come up with $1 billion idea. That doesn't happen, at least not to like most people.
Then nearly none of the businesses that are $1 billion companies started that
but
way.
What does happen is you find a problem and you get really bloody good at solving it, and then when you go and tell people about that solution, they'll be like, yeah, I'm in some pain. I'll exchange, cash for pain relief, which is kind of what we do. And, every business is really a doctor if you think about it on some level. So I think that's what I wish I knew when I was starting at the beginning. It's just just focus on the damn problem and be the best at solving that.
And it doesn't even have to sound like a big problem. I think that's the other thing. Like,
no, just like
people
clean
think,
up trash, anything.
Even the problem can be very personal. Like Mark Zuckerberg, being blunt about it, he was socially awkward. And
he's a social machine now.
Yeah, he's a social machine now. but the point he is. But the point is that at the time he was solving a shy, insecure problem of his own. Right? Mm-hmm. He wanted to meet girls. He wanted to know their status. And he wanted to be popular. He built Facebook to connect to people in a way that he can't in the real world because he's socially awkward. Right? He was solving a problem he felt, socially awkward problem he felt. Yeah. He copied someone else's idea as well. That's fine. No, I think
game's the game in that regard.
Yeah, I mean,
you do it better as well.
He should have just admitted it.
Yes.
Right, and then as opposed to like pretend it's his idea, I think that's more ballsy. But I guess he executed it better than maybe the other people might have done. The point I'm getting to is, I think problems that when people are thinking about the thing you just described, which is totally right, is they have to remember the problem doesn't have to sound big.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's like gardening.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like my neighbour's got like more leaves than they should on the lawn. Give me 15 quid.
And if you cleaning windows, if you clean windows, the good thing is you'll learn how to sell, you'll learn how to collect money, you'll learn how to decide whether a client's good or not, you'll learn how to price things, you'll learn how to hire people because you're going to need some help, you learn how to buy supplies, how to get costs out, you have to open up a company account, you learn how that works. That's it. We're about to release a video that talks all about this. Our next video is all about this. Everybody can be an entrepreneur. You just have to a little bit realise you don't want to be Elon Musk anyway. You don't have to be.
No, that would not be fun.
Yeah, in fact, I don't want to be Elon Musk. I don't want to be Elon Musk. I'd like to have his impact. I kind of like his social media following. I'm working towards that, but I don't want his life.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Everyone thinks entrepreneurship is being Elon Musk. No, right? It can literally be you like picking and growing flowers, and then your friends buy them and they sit in their houses and you like it. Great start. That could end up being the biggest florist in the world.
I can tell you a funny story. When it's not funny at all, but
my expectations high.
Yeah, no, it's not. Just lower those down. There's not much humour involved. There's not much humour in this narrative. Yeah. When I must have been 12 or 13. This is in the dark days, when I'm having a bad time. Whatever. So the village that I grew up in, I'm in the countryside. I'm from Somerset. Fortunately enough, I escaped the accent. And grew up in Somerset. That's the funny part.
Yeah, that is funny.
And there was a public footpath that went on for miles, and our house was perfectly situated in the middle of this public footpath. And so I knew that every Saturday, Sunday in the summer, people would come in from Bristol or Bath or Exeter, and they'd walk this footpath. It's quite popular woodland to walk through and walk through the village. It's very beautiful. And I knew, I was like, if I put apples out, people are going to buy them, because they don't, all these city people, they don't think about how long the journey, they can't comprehend a walk through the countryside, because it's like, when you're walking through the countryside, it takes so much longer than just walking from a shop to a shop in the city. So my sister and I, we had an apple tree in the garden, we had 2 pear trees. We also had a cherry tree, but it never blossomed. And what we'd do is we'd pack them up and we'd put them in a box, and we'd be like 20p for a piece of fruit, and near enough it would almost always sell out. And I think that's when I learned, I wasn't cognizant enough to realise, I've solved a problem, this is value, I was 12, I just wanted to play RuneScape probably. But that was just an example. I might have made £3 or something on a weekend, but it's that little
I think that's the thing. And the other thing I think is work generally has got a bad rap. It's people who think work is a bad word.
Because they don't like what they do.
Well, that's right. And work is I don't want to retire. I could retire now. I don't want to retire.
Well, I remember when, I think you were talking about this in that long video where you talked about the sale of the company and how that sent you into a bit of a post. You know how women get postpartum depression? Yeah. I think if an entrepreneur, you have post-sale depression, I can imagine, where you're like, whoa, what the hell do I do now? Yep. How did you handle that, if you don't mind me asking?
I spent 2 years in therapy.
Oh yeah, that would do it.
But I'm all right now.
Good.
I think. But no, I think it's one of those things. Again, it is that particular subject that people are listening to this. It's I sold a company for a lot of money, woe is me, right? Well, you know, like fuck off sort of thing. No one cares to hear my problem. But it was like I kind of lost my family because that's everyone I work with. And then I lost my identity a bit because it's like I was Simon that built Fluid. Now I'm just Simon with lots of money. All right. So, you know, I felt like I didn't. And then what am I doing every day? I don't know. Like my baby was born. So like I was changing nappies, frankly. So I did have a job to do, an important job to do. But I definitely felt like, you know, this isn't, who am I? You know, and I think that's something to think about when you're building a business. I really think people should build something they just enjoy. It's cheesy, but then, you know, when you're not enjoying it, get someone else to run it, sell it, or do something else. Like, you know, it's just a life experience. It's just a journey. So you don't...
I've learned that, like, I mean, I think I've learned this, Like, if you don't like it, you just won't do it.
Right.
Because it's like the business requires so much from you. Like, in a normal 9-to-5 job, for example, you clock in, clock out, you don't really enjoy it, but you tolerate it. But a business, you never clock out. And, like, that's quite painful. That requires a lot of stress and a lot of hardship. And, yeah, if you don't love it, like, you're just going to quit. You know, that's the only rule I have.
You've got to do a lot of shit even when you're doing something you love.
Yeah.
You know, like I cleaned the toilets before you came today. I had to fucking clean them. Apparently it was my
Because it was yours, mate.
Right, apparently. So I cleaned the toilets before
No
we got
television
here.
for you until you...
No, I know. But the point is, you know, like you have to clean up some shit even when you're doing something you love, right?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
you literally have to. And I think
tax returns, you know.
Tax returns, whatever, you know, like... So I think that happy is also a dangerous word in business. Like, you're going to be happy, don't worry. You own your own business, you're going to be happy. That's not exactly it, right? You're going to have unhappy moments as well, right?
I would argue that it's fulfillment.
Yes.
As opposed to happiness.
Yes, exactly.
Because happiness is just an emotion, but fulfillment is it's like that's a state of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
I think like you can feel, like if you want to be happy, just go and hook yourself up to a morphine drip and just sit there.
Good idea.
Yeah.
On that note, should we go for dinner?
Yeah, I'd love to.
At the end of my videos now, I'm going to start saying, let's go for chicken. Yeah. That's my new thing.
Well, they might have chicken at Erla, I'm not sure.
Okay, good. Yeah, on my video at the end, Callum thought it was very funny to edit. Keep in, I said at the end of it, normally people are like, and if you like this video, hit subscribe and like, but I didn't. I said, okay, everybody, I've finished now, I'm going for chicken. And that's all the people in the comments like, well, how was the chicken? How was the chicken? Best way to end video ever, you know, like...
Shows the retention was good.
Yeah, that's true.
I found that one thing I'll say before we go is I watch Mr. Beast videos. And what I've noticed is Mr. Beast doesn't do the outro because I assume it's because it harms the retention, right? Because you know you finish watching a video and then they start saying like, oh, thanks this, blah, 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 like, subscribe, like if you enjoyed. No one watches that bit. So that's like a 10, 15 seconds of inefficiency in the video. Mr. Beast just has an explosion. So what I've started doing at the end of my videos is just going, bye.